Yeah, thanks to Ted, John, and Brian. So the rest of the Lunch and Learn involves a speaker, a guest speaker that we brought in. Months ago, when Ted, Dan, and I, and others were discussing this, the need for our people to be ambassadors and stewards and to get the word out, we talked an awful lot about facts and information and all of what you're seeing here today, which is the foundation of what we need to state our case with. We have to be equipped with all this information. And Ted started talking about how do we get this out and what's the way in which we message, and part of that's the ambassador program. Ted said we need to recruit people to our side, we need to motivate our own workforce, and we need to win. We need to win in 2014. And so I said, I know a guy that spent a college coaching career recruiting, motivating, and winning. And he also happens to be an industry advocate. He speaks to various industries across the nation, electrical, mining, petroleum. He also speaks to charitable events, and makes a career doing that after his retirement from college coaching. When he retired years ago, one of the ESPN morning show announcers begged him not to retire because he said Coach Green is the best quote in college football. Go ahead and pull that up. We'll show you a clip here of a few quotes from Bob Green before we get him going.
And you know, we're going to take a break now from top moments for another kind of top moment in itself. It's the top greenisms of 2009. You know what I'm talking about. Bob Green, take it away.
Our football team was like the kid that plays second French horn in the school band. We got to play better. You know, that's a double-edged sword. You know, it's kind of like watching your mother-in-law go off a cliff in a Cadillac. You know, like when you go to the junior high dance in the 8th grade, and the guys dance with a girl. How close did you get? How close did you get? How close did you get? Kind of like George Jones going to a hip-hop concert. Not much harmony there. And he wanted to go. He's like that black lab on the first day of pheasant hunting season. He was pulling at the chain. We're kind of like a woodpecker in a petrified forest. It was not what I would call a modern art masterpiece. It was more like Veneter, Nebraska, hometown, and paint job. I got a short memory, just like when I was in the 3rd grade. 2 of the best years of my life. I like that butte water. You can eat and drink at the same time. It's always tough when the football season ends. It's kind of like eating potato chips. You know, it's hard to stop. Everybody expects you to win. My wife couldn't go to church with me on Sunday, and everybody said, "Where is she?" I said, "She doesn't go out with losers." Tonight by the light of a single candle. Sat right in the front row, walked both ways, uphill, 5 miles to school, raised my hand all the time, studied, and one day I finally got an A. My grandma beat the heck out of me for cheating. Walked in like a guy dancing with his date at the homecoming dance. We tried for a 2-point conversion, they picked it off and scored. If I'd had a rifle, I'd have shot him running right down the field. I'm not a big Yankee fan, it's kind of like living in ancient Rome and cheering for the Lions. From that great football coach, Amos Alonzo Stagg, what did he say right before he died?
So you got a dose of what you're in for here today. Bob Green coached football for 40 years, 33 in college. He coached at Nebraska, Missouri, coached at the University of Northern Colorado, and finished his career in Montana. He's been a keynote speaker for the Montana Petroleum Association in 2012. As I mentioned, speaks for a lot of industries around the country. Not many people have a stadium named after them, and even fewer of those are still living. But here he is, still alive, Bob Green.
Hope I got that switch on. You know, I got it turned on there. You always got to be worried about that. Pleasure to be here to visit with all of you today. What a wonderful gathering of well-educated, enthusiastic people. My goodness, be here with Noble. And to have to follow those guys as a speaker, you know, that's pretty tough coming in. That's pretty darn tough. I'm going to try hard. But I want to thank all of you. You know, Eric did a great job setting this whole thing up. And you know, he made all those sandwiches. He got up early this morning. That was outstanding. Everybody hear me? You know, you got to be careful about that, everybody hear me, in giving talks. You know, I remember years and years ago, of course, I was a young coach back then. You know, I was telling everybody I'm a little older now. When I first started coaching, I had black hair and I had white teeth. Now I got white hair and black teeth, so things change. But anyway, I'm up there a little nervous, you know, and it's at a football clinic, and enthusiastic crowd, and with Noble I've been to a breakfast and learn, and I've been to a lunch and learn. In football, the football clinics a lot of times are a drink and learn. But at any rate, I'm up there and I made a horrible error that I learned about in terms of, can you hear me? You know, I'm up there talking, and man, the sweat and the spit's coming out, and I'm showing them how we're going to run this stuff. And I quickly observed that there were probably about 200-300 people there, that the ones in the front were paying attention. You know, I had an audience. Guys in the back, their little beer there, and pretty obvious they were more concerned with socializing and having a drink. So I made the fatal error. I hit the old microphone, you know, you've heard people do that. And, excuse me, can you all in the back hear me? They all said no. Everybody in the front got up and went to the back. So, not going to make that mistake. I want to do a great job for you today. I want to give you some ideas. I want this to be a time when maybe you get a thing or two you can think about that will help you. You know, I'm certainly not an expert in the oil and gas industry. I've coached a lot of guys that ended up graduating, hundreds and hundreds that are in the oil and gas industry. My son is in the oil and gas industry, so I'm familiar with it. But I'm certainly not trying to masquerade as an expert in the oil and gas industry. I'm going to try hard. I'm going to try hard for the next little while to give you something to think about. I'm going to try very hard. I'm kind of like Dolly Parton's bra strap. I'm honored to be chosen. I just hope I'm up to the task. You know, I coached football for almost 40 years at 4 different colleges and universities, 2 high schools, and I enjoyed them all. I liked them all. You know, you see guys quit or retire or get fired or whatever, and they say, well, I served time at this place, or that place was a hole, or something like that. And not me. I liked everywhere I was. I enjoyed everywhere I coached. And during those years I coached, both college and high school football, you know, you kind of get a feeling that changes. We experienced a tremendous amount of changes in 40 years in college football. That relates to the business you all are into, your industry. So our industries really have some things in common. Some things in common if you think about it. Both the oil and gas industry and the football industry are constantly in the media, aren't they, huh? Constantly. And that's good. Well, sometimes we think about that as being bad. That's good. That's really good. You got to make that good, you know? Make that good. Both are heavily regulated. Goodness, if anybody saw any more change in college football over the 40 years that I did it, I'd have to see it. We went from almost no rules to recruiting rules to academic rules to steroids to drug testing to coaching limitations to scholarship limitations to satisfactory product. Very heavily regulated, just like your industry. Both are very fast moving and dynamic, right? They're going, in fact, almost ballistic, right? They move quickly. And again, both of them have seen significant changes over 40 years. The last 40 years have seen huge changes in your industry. And people are passionate about both, aren't they, huh? That was alluded to by the previous speakers. So you all are part of a company which is a leader in your industry. You know, you're a leader, you know, doing that. And we have all manner of people that are involved in Noble here today. And obviously I coached for all those years in college football. I also played college football. You can tell I was a great player, right? Big guy like me. Yeah, but I played, you know. And so I've been on both labor and management. I did it for a long time. When I first started coaching, the Dead Sea was only sick. Still had a chance. Well, we're going to visit today about how you can be an ambassador for your industry, for Noble Energy, for your industry, and really for our nation. You know, you all are affecting the world. I don't know, I'm certainly not an expert, but I know years ago in talking to the industry, just a few years ago, people weren't talking about our nation becoming energy independent, were they? And now we are. We're going to become energy independent. You all are affecting the world. What you do is touching everybody in our nation and the world. You're doing it. So your role as an ambassador is critical. It's absolutely critical. It is critical. It is critical. What you do, what you say, that neighbor you talk to, those electronic communications you have, those are critical. And they mean a lot. You know, I've spoken a lot of times since retiring as a college football coach, and a lot of times it has to do with some industry and other. People always ask, you know, either during the course of the presentation or in a Q&A deal, how did you win? What was the secret? How did you do it? You know? And there's some stock answers. Maybe you've heard old football coaches talk. Stock answers. Surround yourself with good people. Good, that's a good answer. I got no problem with that. Good answer. Surround yourself with good people. That's good. Have a philosophy. That's good. Have a philosophy. Surround yourself with good people. Hard to argue with that, right? Oh, yeah. Recruit good players. Now that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. We won because we had good players. Get good players. Just like you all are doing a great job in the Rocky Mountain area, but you got good land to work with, don't you? You have a good structure. You got a good play. And that's important. But I was never that way. I never got into those stock answers when people would ask me. I can really put my finger on something. I sure made a lot of mistakes. I'm not like all those coaches. You know, we talked about that yesterday in Greeley. Coaches retire. In fact, I saw one just the other day. He did the college football show. And, hey, I did it my way, and I don't regret anything. And if I had to do it, man, I did it for 40 years, and I got stuff I regret all the time. I made mistakes. Yeah, I wonder what you were trying if you never made any mistakes. Come on, guys. Don't give me that. But the secret to our success and to what we did was pretty simple. It was a positive attitude. It was a positive attitude, and I call it positive production. And we always refer to that. I've always been a positive person. If I'd have been on the Titanic, I'd have said, don't worry, boys, we're only stopping for ice. We'll get going here. I take my wife shopping. And I keep my coverage. I have a wonderful wife. I put a dime in the parking meter. Now that's a positive attitude. She ain't gonna be there long. So that's the first component. That's the first component, and I think the most important component. And that's not your knowledge. It's your positive attitude. I really believe that. I really believe that's critical for success. And I don't believe it just because it's nice, or because it's pleasant, or because it's cool, or because it's the in thing. I believe it because it's productive. You want to win. You know, if you give people self-worth and make them believe they can win, they got a chance to win. I got the Montana Tech job in December of 1986. And again, at that point, we'd moved all over. I'd been on football staffs, been fired, been on football staff and got fired. Poor wife and kids that have to move around. You who are familiar with the game know that occurs. But anyway, I get the job at Montana Tech. I'm the world's worst interview. The world's worst. I'm talking to that president. I'm right up in his face. You know, I want the job. Tell me what I can do. And, you know, so the dean told me, he said, listen, coach, we have a wonderful engineering school. I said, that's great. I've always loved trains. I didn't know. So they offered the thing to 4 other guys. Now, I was giving this talk a while ago. One guy said that's not true. They only offered it to 3. But I know that they offered it to 2, but they didn't take it. That's okay. So I got the job. Went up there. Man, I got my staff hired, and I was positive, enthusiastic. So they made mistakes. But that's where that positive attitude came in. So I couldn't wait. The first meeting with that team, with those young men coming in there, and we're down in the we've redone our football complex. You know, this is a long time ago, but man, I was just so excited about 110 of those guys, and they're sitting down in that meeting room, and I'm up there and I'm talking to them, and I got it. And it's a good meeting. Now, I'm not going to mix our corporate messages here. I talk about meetings, and I've heard this other presenter, and I was there. Well, every meeting can be a great. That's not true. That's not true. But you got to have. I love meetings. You can run small nations the amount of times with me, but they ain't all good. You know, they're not. That's fact. But this was a good meeting. Those kids are there and they're seeing the new coach, and I've met some of them, some I haven't met. And, man, I'm up there talking, and again, the spit and the boogers, and I'm fired up, ripping my coat off. And anyway, those young men, they're so fired up, so enthusiastic. Well, you get a job for a reason. They've been 0-10 the year before. Matter of fact, they've been 0-10 the year before. Matter of fact, they've been 0-10 the year before. We had one guy on that football team that had ever won a game at Montana Tech. We had one guy that ever won a game at Montana Tech. So I'm sitting up there talking to him, but I'm going to be positive and I'm going to get them going. So I said, man, you all were 0-10. We were 0-10. Because even though I wasn't here, I was with you. And now I'm with you. We were 0-10. We can't. We got to fix that. We got to fix it. What can we do? What can we do? We can't be 0-10. And I got a guy back there, he's waving his hand. I say his name was Nate Kirk. I didn't know it at the time. He waving his hand. I said, yeah, we can't be 0-10. What can we do? He said, Coach, we got to schedule 9 games. We had to work with that attitude. You see where I'm leading? We had to get that positive attitude. And we did. We did. We got better players and we won, and you know, they have positive self-image. Our guys looked for the good in all things. About 3 years later, 3 of the guys were in that very meeting. We're going up to Canada for spring break, up through Eureka, Montana. Some of you are familiar with our state, and right up there going into British Columbia. And of course, this is before 9/11, but you go over the border there, you know, and the guy checks you, whatever, the border guard, the ranger guy, and you go through there, and I've been through there several times. Do you have any fruit? You know, do you have any whiskey? Do you have any firearms? He's checking with them. And so our 3 guys going up there on spring break, and they asked all the questions, and they said, are you all Americans? Well, Huntsman said, no, sir, but 2 of us are first team All-Frontier Conference. So you need that positive attitude to be productive. You need that thing. So that positive self-image starts with you. It starts with you. We were talking at Greeley yesterday with Great Bunch, Breakfast and Learn. I told him I want you to be the president of your fan club. I want you to be the president of the industry's fan club. I want you to be the president of Noble's fan club. And it doesn't mean you're out. I thought the point was very well made, that you're out talking to the TV station or to anybody. You're talking to your neighbors because you're the expert. And that is where it comes through. And it's how you say it. Enthusiastic. You know, not long ago, after I retired, I was doing a talk out in California. Some of our guys, they're in another industry, but man, big office. I mean, this guy's, he's their boss. Big office. It had everything. I've never been in Eric's office. Probably like Eric's office. I don't know, man. There's stuff hanging off the walls, a TV, a bar. It's got everything, you know, in there. And so maybe like Josh's office. I don't know. But at any rate, it's a pretty fancy office. I'm talking to this guy, and you know how sometimes you learn something, you know? And I'm looking at all the stuff he's got, and he wanted to hear some football stories and things. I saw a sign on the wall. And that sign said, do you deliver bad news or do you deliver good solutions? That thing like a club, it hit me. It said, do you deliver bad news or do you deliver good solutions? I said, I'll tell you all the stories you want. Give me a minute. I'm the world's worst guy with cell phones and stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute. But man, I grabbed my yellow sheet and I wrote that down. Do you deliver bad news or do you deliver good solutions? You know, there are in this world, probably not with Noble, but I had him on the football staff, there are people that can't wait to deliver bad news, can they, huh? They can't wait. They can't wait to deliver bad news. They can, Coach, God, we can't run the power against these guys. Coach, Jason, we can't protect against them. What are we going to do, forfeit? You know? I keep telling you how the problems are. And certainly there are problems. I'm not suggesting they're not. But don't constantly deliver bad news. You know the problems. You know the challenges. Use that energy. Use that money. You're incredibly talented. You have great jobs. Live in a wonderful city. Work for a wonderful company. Sure, you got problems. You're going to go over those in meetings. You bet. But use that energy, that time, those resources on working for solutions. Doesn't mean you're all going to agree. but use it on working toward that rather than saying we can't do this. Goodness, I used to wonder when you're a kid, remember history class, and they tell you about those ancient Chinese kings and emperors or whatever they were. What they do to a guy that delivered bad news? Remember that? I chopped his head off. I wondered about that till I coached for a while. I could sympathize with those Chinese kings. They were right, man. I was in an airport not too long ago reading a deal on D-Day. It was June 6th, and they had the D-Day. General Eisenhower, wonderful leader, positive guy. He had a big job ahead of him, didn't he? A lot of problems, a lot of Germans. Wanted to kill those guys. Had to get across that English Channel. Tough deal. Had to take it all on himself. But he had that guy on his staff. He had that guy that delivered bad news all the time. No, I talked about this. I couldn't believe it. And day after day, said, "Oh, the weather's terrible. Oh, the Germans got up. Well, where can we? Well, we can't land there. We can't land. Well, we don't have enough boats." Finally, Eisenhower, one of the best guys at getting consensus and bringing people together, he fired the guy. So that's good, So my point is, you all deliver good news. Noble. Indeed is a leader. Solutions regarding water, chemicals, air, trucks, decreasing footprint, marketing, many other things. You're a leader in delivering those things. Keep working on that. Keep working on that and spend that energy to deliver good solutions. Anybody can deliver bad news. Anybody can deliver bad news. I know I'd be the dumbest guy in your industry. Somebody said one time, "Did you ever think about going to medical school?" I said, "The only way I could get into medical school would be as a cadaver." Wasn't that good a student? I did spend 2 years in the 3rd grade. Miss Burns, she was wonderful. So, deliver good news. Deliver good news. Now here, in terms of positive production, and you being an ambassador, we come to a critical component. And that is buy-in. Now, in meetings, and again, that's a whole different, not getting into corporate structure thing. All of you have meetings of some degree, and you have sessions and those type of things, the ambassadorship, the stewardship program, and everybody gets their input, and you strategize, and you do things. Football staffs, like I said, we meet forever. You can run small nations on how much we meet. Going over everything. But the big thing is that once you come out with that strategy, you need to buy in. You need to buy in. And when I'm at these corporate deals, they talk about consensus. There's nothing wrong with consensus. I got no problem with consensus. I think it's great. But let's be realistic. Consensus is elusive, isn't it? Huh? Consensus is elusive. That's hard. That's hard. What you need to do is once you set upon a path, and it looks like you have a great path to follow, or you set upon it, you decide to follow it, the key is buy-in. The key is buy-in. Great example. I used Josh as an example yesterday. If we're in that meeting and we're sitting there and our coaches said, "You've heard all the legends about meeting all." That's true. That's true. Tough when you got to call that poor wife and she's got the kids. I'm going to be here till midnight. I'm going to spend the night here. The janitor's going to wake me up in the morning. And you work all the time. But once you decide that offensive lineman is going to step here and he's going to bring that back foot with him, that's the way you have to do it. Because that's no good if you get out there and that coach is teaching that young man and he's saying, "Okay, here's what we're going to do, Josh or Fred or Sam or whatever." He says, "We're going to step with that lead leg and we're going to bring that back foot." Yeah, I really don't like it much. It's the way Green wants to do it. That's no good, is it, huh? That's no good. That's no good. Just like your neighbor. You're cutting the grass. And your neighbor's talking about what they've seen in the paper or what they heard on TV. And you say, "Well, yeah, we've gone to those multiple holes off a single pad deal. Eric Jacobsen thinks it's a good idea. I really don't think it's too good." Wow! Where are you with your ambassadorship? That's no good. That's no good. It's no good for that employee to do that. It's no good for that coach to do that. That's losing. That's not winning. That's not winning. So, get your 2 cents in, do those things, But once that course is set, you need to buy in. I learned an incredible lesson on buy-in many years ago. I was coaching football in Broken Bow, Nebraska, the Sand Hills in Nebraska, okay? And we got young, had one little baby, had another one born there, but only had one at the time. And so our church sponsored a marriage retreat, okay? That's a long time ago. I'd never heard of it anyway before then, but so we do the marriage retreat. Well, Pam Green, you gotta have a lovely wife, a great wife. Outkick my coverage, totally. There's two kinds of wives. Outkick my coverage, that's a fact. There's two kinds of wives in college football. There's great wives and there's ex-wives. Those are the two. There's nothing. There's no rating. Nothing in between. Nothing in there. That's a fact. Divorce rate's probably 75–80%. Anyway, I didn't buy in. I said, honey, no. This is not for me. You know, marriage retreat, I don't want to do that. I was in the Marine Corps. You know, very proud of being in the Marine Corps. Short, undistinguished career. After I got back from Vietnam, I went to college. But very proud of being in the Marine Corps. A lot of guys had a lot worse than me. But anyway, I said, honey, I'm a proud United States Marine. I don't retreat. Well, we went to the marriage retreat. And so, but I hadn't bought in. That's the point I'm getting to. I didn't buy in. So anyway, we get to this deal, you know, and it's at the church, and I'm going to guess there were 5 couples there, young couples like we were, and the lady running the thing, the facilitator, wonderful lady. She goes around, and we introduce everybody, you know, sit. Hey, the current word is awkward. Kids use awkward, don't they? This is awkward, man. We're sitting there. Nobody's saying anything. People are kind of looking at each other. Of course, you know, everybody kind of knows everybody. And some of the guys from the ranch are coming a long way, 50 miles. I remember old Stuart Carr came from that long, so they came a long way. I don't think Stuart wanted to go either, to tell you the truth. But anyway, we're sitting there, and, you know, we're visiting. She said, well, we've got to get started. She said, well, the first thing to talk about, you know, at this marriage retreat, we're going to talk about marital sex. Whoa! You think everybody's clammed up before that? Nobody says anything. I'm sitting there, people are, you know, drinking coffee, you know, the body language. And so, nobody says a thing. This lady, God bless, she's really trying hard, the facilitators. Come on now, we've got to get going. We'll get started with marital sex. She said, now, how many of you have mutual climax? Whoa! Hey, this is a long time ago. This is before dirty TV, any of that stuff. 5 years ago. So, she said, well, how many of you have mutual climax? So, nobody says a thing. So they're looking, all of a sudden, I figured, okay.
That's right.
Whoa! You should have seen the way Pam Green looked at me. So, she says, Coach Green, I mean, she's so glad that somebody's saying something. She's, Coach Green, do you all have mutual climax? My wife looked at me and I said, no! I said, we're State Farm people. But the point is, I did not buy in, did I? I did not buy in, so it wasn't a good event. You gotta buy in. Then, the issue in positive production, positive mental attitude, positive self-image, comes in with correction or with confrontation, in your case as an ambassador. Did I ever have to correct guys in football? Well, sure I did. I had to, you know. You got to correct guys. You got to tell them what they did wrong. You got, you know. And of course you do that. I was talking at the Wyoming Coach Association a little while ago. So we're talking about positive mental attitude and building a program and everything. They said, Coach, man, I've seen you at practice. I've seen you at games. You're pretty animated there. I said, that's right. I correct people. I engage people. I end up, you know, in some type of exchange in terms of correction, just like all of you will as an ambassador. But, again, that positive attitude comes into it. And the way we were successful is we always corrected from a positive perspective. Again, you don't have to say something to a player about his ethnic group or about his social habits you know, or anything about his mother, you son. You know, you don't have to say that. When I played football, college football, you know, many, many years ago, that's pretty much the norm. Shoot, I was in the United States Marine Corps in 1968. I promise you they weren't really into positive reinforcement. But you know what, though? They were. I mean, they taught leadership principles that were absolutely positive. Absolutely positive in terms of taking care of your unit and those things. But so, it doesn't do any good to belittle someone. Again, that's the same thing. Do you deliver good solutions or you deliver bad news? You're delivering a good solution to that young man. That was a good first step, Josh or Bill, and then you didn't get that other step down, and that guy stuck his fist right up in your face, and that's why your nose is bleeding, and you got a little problem. And so that's it. You know, you can't. You'll engage people, but always in a positive fashion. I thought an exceptional point was made. There are going to be people that you're not going to convert. But you know what? They're in the minority. They're in the minority. They're in the minority. And you deliver with a positive attitude, a positive message, you're going to make progress. You're going to win. That's right. You're going to win. Going to win. That's what you got to do. You know, again, a coach giving a player a negative self-image, a negative message is not productive. It's not productive. Now, coaches all have different styles. You all have different styles being an ambassador. Not everybody's the same. And some of the coaches that were on our staff were more authoritarian. More General Patton, I call them. Some were more of a friendly type coach. But I always insisted that when they corrected, it was from a positive perspective. I don't want to hear that kid, you saying something about his mother, you know, because that's wasted breath. And it's the same with you all. I'll never forget, I told that story yesterday, and 2 or 3 people in Greeley had a comment on it. I played college football, played for a very good team. I was certainly not, I walked on, ended up getting the scholarship, ended up coaching, had a wonderful experience. And we had a lot of good players. And I was not a great player, but I'll never forget, we were in a championship game, end of the year, going to the postseason. If we win, got to win the conference championship. Anyway, we had a couple of big old guys, and we were in the forefront of lifting and conditioning, but trust me, these big guys, they're big fellas, they had a little cheese on them, they're a little fat, you know, just state the fact. You can show a drive-in movie on their fannies. And so they were convenient targets for the D-line coach. And all the time, every day. He'd call them lard, fat, dumb. Then he'd change up and call them chicken. You know what I mean? I mean, all the time, day after day, call them. And we're in the big game now. And even at a point with excessive stress, I'm playing defensive back. They run by me, they win, you know. And so I'm a little puckered up. But at any rate, it's time out. We're leading by 4. They're not going to kick a field goal. I mean, it's raining, and there's almost no time left in the game. They score, they win. So it's timeout. They called timeout. I never forget that same coach talking to those guys. He called them names every day. Oh, come on, Harold. Come on, Gerald. You can do this. You can do this. What a phony. You know, I actually thought about that at the time. What a phony. That was it. Now, we didn't win the game. We're fortunate enough to win the game. But I thought about that. So his message was no good, was it? You know, Eric brought this up after the presentation yesterday. I had a saying. You call a guy a dog long enough, pretty soon he'll bark. You know what I'm saying? You tell him he's a good player and keep working with him, pretty soon he's a good player. And then you have a convert in terms of being an ambassador. So again, the attitude has to be positive. The confrontation or the engagement, I don't want to say confrontation, it has to be positive. You are noble energy. Every one of you. Not just the executives, not just the board of directors. You all are noble energy. And that's a huge connection with college football. And that's a change that I saw over the years. College football is at an all-time high in terms of popularity. All-time. That's another thing I witnessed. And which is great. Great for the game, great for everything. But that kid at Ohio State gets in a little trouble at that bar on Saturday night. Kid gets in trouble in a bar in Butte, Montana. Thank God he didn't. Kid at Ohio State did. But it's all over, isn't it, huh? Instantaneous. Instantaneous. And he's Ohio State. So use that to your advantage. what you say, you're the experts, you're going to be all over the world. You're going to be all over your neighborhood. All over. All over. What you say is so important. So important. You say something, you have some type of mannerism, you have some type of message, it travels so much more quickly than you think. And it's important that what you want said, that your message gets across. A few years ago, we're getting ready in the NAI National Playoffs. We're going to play Azusa Pacific University in Los Angeles, California. Second round of the playoffs. They won one at home in LA. We won at home in Butte, Montana. Now, LA has 8 million people. Montana, the whole state, 167,000 square miles, has 900,000 people. They got guys that can go. They can cross white stripes rapidly. They're really good. And I wanted to play them in Butte, Montana. It was 37 degrees below zero. And so I figured, that's not wind chill now, that's temperature. So I liked our chances with those guys at 37 below. But that wasn't to be. You know, I had to deliver good solutions. I didn't have to deliver bad news. I had to deliver good solutions. So we got to go play them in Los Angeles. So, man, I'm puckered up, and we're out there. The TV's going. You see the TV stuff go. By the way, I don't know how all that stuff. There's so much on YouTube. There's a Coach Bob Green iPhone app. There's a Coach Bob Green Wake Up app. All this. I have no idea. I'm not technical. I have no idea how all that stuff gets on there. But I do know one thing. You don't make any money off it. But at any rate, so we're getting ready to play Azusa Pacific University in Butte, Montana. We're at practice. It's Tuesday. Our first day in pads. And man, it's our second round of the playoffs. And we had just had a grandchild. We had a little granddaughter. Wonderful event that Monday. In fact, I'd gone up there and I was with my daughter. And so everybody, you know, small town, everybody knew everybody. So that, in fact, it was that very TV guy up there. He said, Coach Green, golly, you're a grandpa. And I'm fired up for the game. And I want to talk about the game. I said, oh yeah, Tom. We're ready to go. He said, well, how does it feel to be a grandpa? I said, well, it's great, except now I sleep with a grandma. I have no idea. It just came. I didn't think about it, man. So anyway, I get home 11 o'clock that night. Whoa! Aren't you the smart? And so my point is, my message was lost, wasn't it? My message was lost. There was nothing about the game. And so that's what you got to do. You got to keep on the message, keep on that positive, and use that instantaneous communication. We talk about that in the football industry. Well, if somebody does something bad, it's all over the world. I always tell our sports information guy, we do a lot good. Get that out. Now, sometimes, you're exactly right. There's another similarity in our industry. Some people, again, can't wait to be the bearer of bad news, can they? They can't wait to deliver bad news. Do you deliver bad news? You deliver good solutions? They can't wait for it. That's all right. Let them do that. You keep delivering good news and stay on the message. That's right. And use that. Again, you're good at it. I'm terrible. Tweets, Twitters, MySpace, Uspace, Facebook, Ubook. I'm no good at that. But you all are. So use that. So with a positive attitude for positive production, with that commitment to making sure that you are going to make a difference. And again, it doesn't have to be the Gettysburg Address now. It's talking to your neighbors. It's talking to your colleagues. It's talking to other people in the industry. I think that's great. I was unaware of the industry collaboration. I do know, my son's in the industry, and I know that they have similar programs, but I think it's great that you're working with Anadarko, I believe. I think that's great. That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it. So you're going to have success. Now, you need to get signed up for that program, for that ambassadorship program. You don't have to take out a pint of blood and sign. You just need to make sure that this team, this outfit, this crew of leaders knows you're in. Knows you're in. You're not graded, you're not going to medical school. You're going to take these instruction things that will fit your knowledge and your ability, and with your positive attitude, you are the difference. That's right. And you're going to be successful. Now, when you're successful, keep saying the right thing. Keep working on that. That's another thing I learned years and years ago. I coached just north of here, a little town out in western Nebraska, right on the Wyoming border. It was so small you headed into town to go hunting. It was a little tiny town. Little tiny town. But I had a wonderful time. Had great teams there, had a great time. But I learned a great lesson there in terms of success, saying the right thing. The industry in town was Luther's elevator, big grain elevator. Some of you from small towns, you're familiar with that. Anyway, Shorty Slaughter worked for Luther's elevator. And he was the after-hours guy. You know, because the elevator's got to stay open late, you know, whatever, 6 to midnight or whatever. And so he would deposit the receipts that he took in, Military State Bank. Didn't have electronic deposits in those days. You know, maybe some of you remember he'd pull the night deposit thing open, he'd slap her in and push her shut. Well, in the course of human events, it happens sometimes. There was a discrepancy. The Loofers felt that more money should have been deposited. This is big news in a little town, boy. We didn't have court TV. We didn't have Judge Judy. We lived in a trailer house the other side of Highway 26 and had 2 rabbit ears on a black and white TV with beer cans stuck on the top to improve the reception. But anyway, so in a small town, this great excitement, man. The people, about half of them, you know, thought Shorty to be guilty. They were the Loofers' buddies. About half of them thought he was innocent. So, man, this is great theater. I'll never forget Scottsbluff County Courthouse. Judge Van Steenberg, he's hitting that. I'll have order in the court. The testimony was just riveting, you know. And the town's there. People are packed. It's hotter than hell in the summer. And so they're watching. So after about 3 days of this deal, word spread instantly. Hey, the jury's going to come back with a verdict. They're coming in. Whoa. I'll never forget. It was so exciting. We're in there, you know, and the jury comes in and the lawyers do their legal deal, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, jury, what say one? What say you all? You know the deal. And the defendant will rise. Old Short stood up. He's a little nervous, you know. And he said, Madam Foreman, what's your verdict? And she said, we find the defendant not guilty. Oh, you should have heard the place. Just exploded. Of course, all the Loofers are mad, you know. I'll have order in the court. Bailiff, that Judge Van Steenberg, he's hitting that thing. He got order restored. Said, I'll have order in the court. He said, does the defendant wish to say anything before I dismiss the jury? Old Short said, yes. He said, what's that? He said, does this mean I get to keep the money? So, when you win, and you will win, say the right thing. Hey, listen, thank you very much for having me here.